Part 28. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 271. We are going to let you take a break from school for a while. Huh? Hosokawa Ryo was completely dumbfounded. Why did you take a break from school? Hosokawa Hissy said without question, wait until you have rested well before going to school. I have already told the teacher. Your father and I will naturally take care of the rest. No, Hosokawa Ryo seemed a little excited. I am in good health. There is really no need to do this. It was not easy to talk to Ching Tianjun again. If he didn't go to school, wouldn't that just cut off the relationship? Will you faint if you are in good health? Hosokawa Hissy's tone subconsciously increased. Tomorrow we will accompany you to the hospital for a detailed examination. I don't trust the school's diagnosis report. After being told this by Hosokawa Hissy, she became a goose again. She didn't even dare to look up, but just stammered. If nothing happens after the examination tomorrow, can I go to school? Why do you want to go to school? Don't tell me about studying. Don't I know that you are my daughter? You are not that kind of person. This. Hosokawa Hissy did not let her go, but continued to ask, I heard from the teacher that you are often bullied at school. Why didn't you tell us? No, I just don't want to play with them. Hosokawa Ryo's voice became smaller and smaller, and the rest could not be heard directly. Then tell me why you still have to go to school. You don't want to study, and you don't have friends. I have. Hosokawa Ryo became very excited, but soon realized that she was a little anxious, and soon returned to that look, but she still didn't say anything. I have friends. Is it the boy you told me last time? Hosokawa Hissy finally led the topic here after waiting for so long. Seeing that Hosokawa Ryo didn't say anything, she continued to ask, is it called Shigeki Aota? Hosokawa Ryo was also helpless when her mother asked her like this, but she had mentioned it before, so she had to admit it. Do you really regard him as a friend? Or, a boyfriend? Mother, why are you asking this? Why does Hosokawa Ryo feel that her mother is getting more and more excited? Do women like gossip? Is it the same person you told me last time? It's you. Hosokawa Hissy laughed as she spoke. Her daughter's behavior was suffocating. Anyway, she wanted to laugh when she thought about it. Hosokawa Ryo's emotions were ignited, and her face turned red all the way to her ears, and then to her neck. When Hissy Hosokawa left the room, Yuji Hosokawa, who had been waiting impatiently, hurried to find his wife and said, something is wrong. I can't find the boy's information. Maybe he is not from Tokyo. Have you checked other places? I checked all over the country. There is no such person. There is no one with the same name. Go ask the teacher. The school should have a file. I asked. The file he left at the school is very simple. There is nothing else written, Yuji Hosokawa suddenly said, and you know this school. We can use fake information, and others can use it. I don't know how many people in it don't want others to know the details. I'm afraid only the top management of the school has the correct information. Hissy Hosokawa frowned slightly after hearing these words, and murmured, it seems that we have to meet this young man in person. You haven't been here for a long time, and you play games as soon as you come. Sakai Otoha saw Lin Ziyan sitting on the sofa playing with his wife, and felt very uncomfortable, but he didn't dare to resist openly, so he could only complain a few words. What do you mean I didn't come? Doesn't Ziobai come to see you every day? Lin Ziyan's eyes never left the screen, and he said casually, besides, it's useless for me to come here. It's all up to you. Do you want me to teach you how to do it? You're fine. Your cat is evil. I always feel cold on my back when it's around. You don't exercise enough. If you exercise enough, you won't feel cold. Lin Ziyan looked up and glanced at her. Do you do what I say every day? Why should I learn those things? Sakai Otoha sat aside a little reluctantly. Dress matching and makeup are very important, otherwise, like you. Big shorts with cartoon short sleeves, plus a greasy face. Lindsay Ian saw her like this and mocked, but with your appearance, I guess you won't be able to wear those clothes in your life. Sakai Otoha glared at Lindsay Ian. Although she was used to his mockery, it didn't mean that she had to endure it silently. What? Any objection? Lindsay Ian noticed her eyes and glanced at her lightly, with a sarcastic expression on his face. Humph! Sakai Otoha turned around and left decisively. She knew that a good man would not suffer a loss in front of him. In the gym, Lindsay Ian was staring at Ziobai on the treadmill next to him, adjusting the speed from time to time, but it was getting faster and faster. Ziobai's legs were almost invisible while running. Sakai Otoha, who was on the rowing machine next to him, saw Lindsay Ian treating Ziobai like this and advised, "Aren't you afraid that Ziobai will get hurt? Even people can't run away at such a fast speed." It asked me to speed up, not me forcing it. Facing Sakai Otoha's questioning, Lindsay Ian seemed to be unconcerned. "I hear you say this every day. Do you really understand what the cat is saying?" "What do you think?" Lindsay Ian smiled and did not directly answer her question. Tisk, I knew it. Sakai Otoha's hand strength was suddenly full, and the whole rowing machine made a painful groan. Looking at Sakai Otoha, who was using all her strength, Lindsay shook his head. "This period of time is still effective. At least the weight has been reduced, but it is not stable and too slow. If it continues like this, it will take at least half a year to complete, which is not fun for him. But he doesn't want to disrupt the plan in other ways." Shiu suddenly walked over and looked at Sakai Otoha, who was exercising desperately, and asked, "How do you feel about your life now compared to before?" "This should be better." Sakai Otoha slowly stopped what she was doing. If Lindsay hadn't said it, she would have forgotten about it. "With regular exercise every day and a healthy life, now I think I have really changed a lot. At least overeating is gone, and I eat the prescribed fitness meals every day. I used to stay up late to play games, and I would stay up all night every time a new game came out, but now I go to bed at 10 o'clock every night and get up at 6 o'clock. I no longer have insomnia and dreams. I fall asleep as soon as I lie down, and it's dawn as soon as I open my eyes. The quality of sleep is so good. Now I think about it and I actually hate my old self a little bit. Laziness, dirtiness, decadence, when did these things start? Do you still hate him now?" Lindsay continued, interrupting her recollection. "I hate him, but it doesn't seem to count." Sakai Otoha seemed to be thinking about something. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 272. Lindsay said happily, "Very good, it seems you have changed yourself." "What do you mean by this?" Sakai Otoy looked at the person in front of him in confusion. "I suddenly realized that we were compromising things." "Are your efforts for that person?" Lindsay slowly guided her. "Your efforts are for yourself, not for that person. He is not worthy of you." "It seems to make sense." Lindsay stood up with a relaxed look on his face and said casually, "That's fine, I won't come here anymore." "Hey! Wait!" Otoy Sakai quickly stood up and called him, asking, "That's wrong. How do I remember that we agreed that you would supervise my weight loss? It has nothing to do with him in the first place." "Really? Why don't I remember?" Lindsay still looked indifferent. "You don't want to run away, do you?" Sakai Otoy walked around in front of him and blocked the door. "How could it be? Am I like that kind of person?" Lindsay spoke righteously, and the expression on his face became serious. "Like," Sakai Otoy answered decisively. "You have grown up." Lindsay raised his hand and patted her shoulder, and said seriously, "You have to walk your own path in the future. Come on, you just want to shirk responsibility." Sakai Otoy didn't accept his words at all. What about you? Lin Zion was not in a hurry at all, with a smile on his face. Me, Sakai Otoi thought for a moment subconsciously, but didn't feel anything was wrong. Aren't you shirking responsibility? Only then did Sakai Otoi realize that Lin Zion was remembering what he just said. It's not like I haven't learned anything. Shouldn't I lose weight first? Otono Sakai also tried to argue. Lin Zion calmly walked to the side and sat down, and asked slowly, then let me ask you, what styles are popular this year? This. Don't even think about guessing. I have read all the information I found for you. You will know the consequences if you make a mistake. Seeing that his idea was seen through, Otono Sakai broke the rules. Have no idea. Lin Zion was not surprised when he heard this. It would be better to say that he had known for a long time that Sakai Otoha was not so easy to change. If it weren't for the money in her family, she would really be a waste. Although she is better now, she still has not escaped from this situation. Situation. Is the hygiene here done by outsiders? What do you want to do? Sakai Otoi seemed to have guessed his next words. Come here tomorrow and I'll get everything done here. Lin Zion raised his hand and waved it around. Sakai Otoi breathed a sigh of relief when he saw it. Fortunately, it wasn't. Lin Zion seemed to sense what she was thinking, and added, you think too much, it's the whole room. Ah. Lin Zion was walking on the way home, while Xiao Bai was walking on the wall on one side, jumping up to cross obstacles from time to time, or suddenly speeding up and running ahead, then stopping to look back at him and the surrounding scenery. He will catch up again when he reaches a certain age. Xiao Bai is not as afraid of strangers as he was before when he meets people he meets. Although he is still very wary, he does not hide in his arms and dare not come out. Returning to the familiar street, as soon as he approached, he found a person standing at the door of his house. Lin Zion thought of something and walked faster. Is it done? Lin Zion stopped outside, while Xiao Bai had already rushed in from the wall. We have completed it according to Mr. S drawings, and the car we ordered for Mr. has been put into storage. Some documents have been equipped. They are all valid documents. Please accept it. After the man finished speaking, he handed over something. Lin Zion took it and glanced at the side. The original dividing wall was pushed down, and the original room was long gone, replaced by a one-story bungalow with a larger area than before. The exterior wall is white, the main entrance is a rolling shutter door, and there is a small door on the side for entry and exit. The appearance looks quite high-end all day long. Okay, I'll come back to you if anything happens later. Lin Zion nodded and said. Thank you sir for choosing us. It's an honor to serve you. Okay. Lin Zion waved his hand and walked directly past him and walked inside. These are all people supported by the Gaoshi family. No matter how much you say, just let them do the work and finish it. The Gaoshi family will naturally take care of the rest. Aota-kun is back. Michiko heard the voice and came out of the living room, then picked up a bunch of keys placed on the shoe rack. Someone asked me to give the keys to this garage to you just now. Lin Zion took the key and asked, want to take a look? He said why the man didn't give him the key just now, and sure enough he had already released it. Yeah, Michiko, who was helping him get his slippers, didn't react at all and simply responded. According to Lin Zion's design, there is a stone-paved path from the backyard connecting the two places. Originally, he wanted to build a long pavilion, so that it would not be affected even if it rained, but it was too troublesome, and the place and the long pavilion did not match at all, so he finally chose the simplest path. Stepping on the newly paved path, the two people happened to occupy the entire space, and it was even a little crowded. Have you been inside? No. Michiko looked over there, frowning slightly, not knowing what she was thinking. Lin Zion was not surprised when he heard this answer, and said casually, just take a look, I designed this, and the things inside may be strange. Strange. The outer wall was also rebuilt to enclose both places. The original door here was also changed to a large door to allow cars to enter and exit. He didn't design the outside, but he was quite satisfied. The two entered through the small door. From the outside, it looked like a very closed environment, but the light inside did not get much darker. The reason was the skylight. I use the skylight for lighting. Even if the lights are not turned on during the day, it can basically meet the lighting requirements. Moreover, it is movable and can be put aside. Linzayan found the button on the side and turned on the switch. As a faint sound sounded, the originally solid top rose and stacked like scales, and the entire roof was reduced to 1/5 of the original. All the light from outside came in now, illuminating the garage. It's a pity that it's already evening, otherwise the effect would be better. What are these? Michiko looked at those strange things and walked over curiously. Blacksmiths, porcelain makers, carpenters. Shiu walked slowly here, while introducing the functions of those things to Michiko. I have to say that my design has been optimized, the space utilization is more reasonable, and the overall planning is more beautiful. As expected, everyone has their own expertise. I, who only learned it by myself for one day, am still not as professional as others. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 273. Of course, these are not the key points. Since this place is called a garage, it is naturally centered around parking spaces. Linzayan saw Michiko's face filled with doubts. He obviously didn't know why there were these in the garage, but he didn't explain and let her down. When the roof is closed and the lights are turned on, each position is independent, and so are the lamp positions. When the lights are on one by one, the entire garage comes to life rhythmically. Let's go, none of this matters. Michiko followed Linzayan down and walked to a door. Where's the car? Before Michiko could think of anything else, Linzayan on the side pushed the door forward, and an empty garage appeared in front of her. The garage is at the front, and you can see the street as soon as you open the front door, and the top floor here is different. Linzayan was still a little dissatisfied when he talked about it. The original space was too small, so he had to make a choice and build the garage in front. After going through the above, Michiko felt that the garage should be more exaggerated, but when she got there, she discovered that it was actually an ordinary garage. Linzayan also noticed Michiko's reaction, and while turning on the lights, he explained, there is a design requirement in the front, but the garage does not have so many fancy functions. It only needs to be able to park the car. The garage is not big, and can probably be filled by 3 cars. There are 3 cars on it, one is a very ordinary black private car, one is a black motorcycle, and one is a silver-white bicycle. Linzayan chose his own private car. The sports car the Gaoshi family chose for him at first was too flamboyant. He didn't like to stand out, after all, it meant trouble. Motorbikes and bicycles are for special occasions, such as traffic jams that he hates most, or when he goes out not far away. In these 2 situations, there is no need to use a car. Go and get your driver's license when you have time. It will be convenient for you. Then Linzayan walked over, opened the cab, sat in, and skillfully inserted the key to start. When he heard the sound, he knew that the car had been modified, at least the engine. There is a problem. Moreover, the shell is also bulletproof, and it can be seen that the Jase family put a lot of thought into it. That's okay, I'm quite satisfied. Turn off the engine, put those driver's licenses in the car, and get out. How's it going? Linzayan asked as he walked towards the motorcycle. I don't understand this very well. Just let Mr. Qingtian think it's good. Michiko looked at those cars. She was the only one who knew how to ride a bicycle, and she looked a little timid for a moment. I found that there is an electric car missing. Lin Zion glanced at the motorcycle. It was very cool. He didn't know how much it cost, but it should be a lot anyway. It's almost impossible for Michiko to learn to drive in her current condition. She's afraid of this thing. Although she doesn't know the reason, Lin Zion thinks that it's better to just drive the entire electric car for her, so that it will be more convenient for her to go out. In fact, it's mainly Lin Zion who likes it. Compared to motorcycles, he prefers the leisurely feeling of electric vehicles. Electric car, Michiko looked at him a little doubtfully. Electric cars. Lin Zion knew that Michiko's reaction was not that she didn't know electric cars, but that there were very few electric cars in Neon. It seemed that they didn't like this kind of transportation tool that takes a long time to charge before driving 30 or 40 kilometers. But this didn't matter to Lin Zion. He had nowhere to go. The furthest thing is a trip to the supermarket to buy groceries. After all, his previous mount in China was an electric bike, and he kind of missed that feeling. Lin Zion looked at Michiko, who was standing there a little uneasily. Without saying anything, he opened the door forward, and the street scene outside followed the light. The previous place is gone, it was leveled by me, Lin Zion said slowly, facing the sunset. What are you doing? Lin, who had just gotten off the car, looked at Lin Zion, who was standing at the door of the garage. Ling is back. Lin Zion smiled and said, the garage is ready, I'll take your mother to see it. Reina walked over, but did not go in. Instead, she poked her head outside and looked around. When she saw the car, her eyes lit up and she said, Ani-chan, can we take a car to school in the future? Lin Zion looked back and said, no, we don't have a driver at home. Besides, where can you drive over and park? That's right. Reina didn't say anything more, but remained dumbfounded. Your friend is coming down, Lin Zion quickly reminded her when he saw Yukino Kame getting out of the car. Reina turned around sharply and looked over. Before she could say anything, Yukino Yoshimi came over. She looked at Lin Zion and said, I'll just send Lina off. I'll pick her up in the morning. Lin Zion did not speak, but looked at Lin with a smile. When Rena heard this, she thought it was enough. The last bit of time was gone. How many times can we see each other in a day? Reina pulled Yukino Yami and said, no, I just said that I like to walk to school. Okay, you're here, come in and have a meal before you leave, Lin Zion chuckled. Yukino Yoshimi sends Reina back every day. We never met her before, but today we met her just in time. Even if Reina doesn't understand, he still needs to understand, since they are all acquaintances anyway. Since you sincerely invite me, let's eat here. Yukino Yoshimi regarded this as Lin Zion's provocation. After all, she was in a big embarrassment last time. You want to come here to see my joke this time, right? Although she knows that there are tigers in the mountains, she prefers to travel to the Tiger Mountains. She must find Lin Zion's weakness and save Reina from him. Is it time for Ani-chan to do it? Reina was a little excited. After all, every time Lin Zion did it, he would make a lot of delicious food, and there were all kinds of them. The same ingredients could make different flavors. In short, she was greedy. Forget it, your friends are not used to my cooking, so let your mother do it. Lin Zion was not stupid. It was too risky to do it himself, so forget it. Then I'll go back and prepare. Michiko turned around and left after hearing this. She felt a little uncomfortable staying here. After Michiko left, Reina dared to say oh to express her dissatisfaction. Seeing her like this, Lin Zion smiled and said, okay, I'll make you something delicious when I have time. Really? That's great. Reina jumped up and hugged him with a smile. Long live Ani-chan. Okay, your friend is still here, stop playing. Lin Zion looked at Yukino Jiame's eyes that looked like she wanted to kill him, and suddenly found it quite fun. After being reminded by Lin Zion, Reina noticed Yukino Jiame with a dark face on the side, but she seemed to not understand at all. She walked to Yukino Giame's side, took her hand and asked, "What's wrong with you? Are you feeling uncomfortable?" My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 274. Take your friend to sit down first. Why are you standing here? Lin Ziyan asked Lingnei to greet Yukino Giame, and he turned back to the garage and closed the door. When he came out of the small door, Lingnei and the other two had disappeared, but there was still someone waiting for him. Matsushita Haru saw him coming out and hurried over and whispered, "The people of the Hasakawa family are checking your information." "Didn't you say that last time?" Lin Ziyan didn't react much, as if this should happen, but he still complained, "So I don't like dealing with rich people, and they check your whole family at every turn." "Don't worry, sir, the boss asked me to tell you that any leaked information is from the school." Matsushita Haru is also an old man around Yukino Wuhei. Being chosen as Yukino Giame's personal bodyguard means everything, but even if she knows Lin Ziyan, she only knows that Lin Ziyan came from there, and the rest is the school information. But she is not a fool, of course she knows that there is something wrong with that thing. "I'm not ashamed of myself. I'm not afraid." "Why are you afraid?" Lin Ziyan smiled and didn't care about her words. Yukino Takemi knew better than anyone how sensitive his identity was. Even Takaishi Shuichiro only knew a little about it, not to mention others. It's a bit miserable to live like this, but who told him that he has a father above him? Hey! By the way, Lin Ziyan seemed to remember something and asked her, "How is Reina doing in school recently? Is there anything unusual?" Matsushita Haru is Yukino Kame's personal bodyguard. Whether it's because of Reina's relationship with him or her relationship with Yukino Kame, she will pay a little attention to him. "It's normal, it's just." Lin Ziyan smiled and said, "No need to say, I've guessed it. It's nothing more than no one except Yukino Kame is willing to approach her. It's right to think about it. Yukino Kame has a strong desire for control. If I were an ordinary person, I would probably have been kicked away by her long ago." Thinking of this, Lin Ziyan shook his head and walked home. He also said, "Come in and sit down. I'm afraid we'll have dinner." "Yes," Matsushita Haru nodded and bowed, then followed in small steps. "Ani-chan, now that we have a car, can we go out and play on the weekends?" Reina sat next to Lin Ziyan on the sofa and muttered, obviously thinking about it for a long time. "Where do you want to go?" Lin Ziyan answered casually, glancing at Yukino Kame who was sitting beside him. Reina shouted immediately after seeing Lin Ziyan's answer, "The beach." To be honest, although she grew up in Tokyo, she has been to only a few places, and it was even more outrageous before. After all, her mother had to work and had no time to pay attention to her. It was only during this period that Lin Ziyan took her to some places. But she also yearned for the beach, but unfortunately she had only seen it on TV. Now that she has a car, she also wants to see it with her own eyes. Tomorrow's club activity is to go to the beach. Yukino Kame, who was waiting for an opportunity, immediately said after hearing Reina's idea. Lin Ziyan looked at her and wanted to laugh, but he held it back. Otherwise, if Yukino Giame saw him laughing, she would definitely think he was laughing at her. Although it was the case, it would not be fun if she was seen. This was a matter between Reina and her, and Lin Ziyan did not want to get involved too much. "Is that so?" Reina looked at Yukino Giame, and then said to herself, "But I want to walk on the beach, and when I get tired, let Uni-chan carry me to continue walking until the sun sets." Lin Ziyan was speechless when he heard it. It dared him to carry her for a day. He was still laughing at Yukino Giame, but now he just wanted Yukino Giame to be more powerful. Sure enough, Yukino Giame did not disappoint him, and then said, "You can let Xiao-chun carry you." Lin Ziyan glanced at Matsushita Haru who was sitting on the other side, and for a moment he felt that it was a bit miserable for her to have such a boss. Matsushita Haru did not expect that she would be tricked. She did not say anything, did nothing, and was inexplicably dragged in. However, she was still confident about this kind of physical work, and Reina didn't look heavy. Forget it, let's stay in school to study. Reina certainly understood that Yukino Kame was doing this for her. Although they were friends, Reina didn't want to trouble her. Linzian could only smile helplessly when he heard this. It seemed that he couldn't escape. It's time to eat, Michiko came from the kitchen and shouted. Linzian seized the opportunity to change the subject, stood up first and said, let's go, eat first. It was a very ordinary meal. Michiko didn't make some fancy dishes, just ordinary home-cooked dishes. This time, Yukino Kame learned from the last lesson and didn't let Matsushita Haru do some weird things. Everyone took their seats. Maybe because of Linzian's influence, Oda mother and daughter didn't say that classic sentence, but silently waited for everyone to come together, and then picked up their chopsticks. The dinner was very quiet. Except for Michiko's polite words from time to time, no one spoke, even Reina didn't speak. You know, last time when Yukino Kame came to eat, she introduced them to me enthusiastically for a long time. It seems that the problem between the two has not been really solved. After thinking for a while, Linzian buried his head in eating and said nothing more. Walk slowly. Michiko sent Yukino Kame and Matsushita Haru out of the house, and she was a little relieved. She felt very uncomfortable being caught in the middle, as she had to consider Linzian's attitude towards Yukino Giame and take care of Reina's emotions. She knew that the things that Yukino Giame did last time were quite bad. Not to mention other people, even she herself felt a little disgusted with Yukino Giame's behavior. But she didn't know why Linzian didn't react to that incident. You know, according to her understanding of Linzian, he would at least ignore her like Hosokawa Ryo until something happened. But Linzian's attitude towards Yukino Giame was still so casual, and the relationship between the two was very subtle. Although Michiko didn't know why, she obviously wouldn't ask Linzian, nor would she investigate the reason privately. She just had to do what she should do and take care of their lives. Michiko was self-conscious enough in this regard. After returning from outside, she deliberately walked to the living room, and when she saw Linzian watching TV with Reina, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. As if he noticed Michiko's gaze, Linzian turned his head and saw Michiko looking at him, and nodded subconsciously. Michiko also smiled and nodded, but then turned around to clean up the kitchen. She didn't have any big wishes, she just wanted to maintain this kind of life. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 275. Linzian watched Michiko leave the living room, then looked at Reina aside, and asked, Reina, let me ask you something. Reina, who had not been paying attention to the TV, looked up at Chiu when she heard Chiu's words, as if waiting for him to speak. Did you reconcile with Yukino Yoshimi because of my words? When Reina heard this question, her little face became entangled. She was silent for a while and then said, Don't you like it, Ani-I-chan? Linzian knew that his guess was right. Otherwise, according to Linne's character, she would not have reconciled so quickly. Even if they reconciled, it would not be this relationship. She has been very sensitive to friends since that incident. Actually, there are many times when you can ignore me. Suggestions are just suggestions. You must have the ability to think independently, instead of just following what others say. Sometimes you have to learn to say no to things you don't like. Saying no is a very useful skill. Linzian didn't pay much attention to things here during this period and forgot about Linne's feelings. But that's Ani-I-chan's. Reina whispered to herself. What? No, Kanamai is still very good to me, but I don't know why she doesn't like Ani-I-chan. Reina was a little helpless. If Yukino Kame really used her again or for other circumstances, she wouldn't have to be so entangled and just break off the relationship and return to the arms of Oni-chan and her mother. But the problem is that in addition to the problem with Lin Xian's attitude, Yukino Yoshimi is extremely kind to her, especially since she is the first friend she made after she came out. The two of them had a good relationship before the accident. This resulted in this embarrassing situation of disconnection. Does it matter whether others like me or not? This matter has happened between the two of you before. It is outrageous that you have to make her like me. Have you ever thought about what the other person thinks? Lene didn't say anything, but leaned towards Lin Xian and nestled in his arms. I don't mean to accuse you. Xiu knew that she felt aggrieved. Let's put it this way, how would you feel if a good friend of yours insists on selling her brother to you every day? Disgusting, Reina whispered softly, in a way that most people couldn't hear. That's right. Lin Xian helped her up, looked at her and said, so your friends also find it annoying, but this dislike is not placed on you, but on me. To be honest, Lin Xian didn't understand why Yukino Yami had such an attitude when she first saw him. Logically speaking, she had no memory, so she should feel like a stranger to him. But Lin Xian felt Yukino Yoshimi's disgust for him at that time, which explained the problem. It is very likely that Reina talks about herself to Yukino Kanamai every day, or complains about herself, which caused Yukino Kanamai to assume a different perspective first. But this may not be a bad thing for Lin Xian, it may even be a good thing. Anyway, that's how he felt. After all, Reina was much easier to deal with than Yukino Yoshimi. But Uni-chan is different. Reina was a little unconvinced. How could other people's brothers compare with hers? Then let me put it another way, does Lene like money? Lin Xian knew that Lene was in over her head now. Money? You should like it, Reina thought for a moment. She didn't know much about this aspect. After all, the money she had in hand didn't exceed 1,000 digits before, and she didn't know how to buy anything, but she also knew it. The importance of money. Then will you share the money with others casually? Won't. Then why do you insist on promoting me to Yukino Yoshimi? Lin Xian asked, does Reina want to share me with your friends? No. Lene immediately reached out and pinched Lin Xian's arm, and then got in, I don't want to share Oni-chan with others. So don't mention me to others casually, not to mention that if you like the same thing, you may not be able to become friends. There are so many people who like money, how many can truly become friends? Lin Xian raised his hand and pressed Lena's forehead. Pushing her out, you are such a big person, don't act like a child. Lene was a little dissatisfied with Lin Xian pushing her away, staring at him. It's a pity that Lin Xian's words ruined his success. Where do you want to go, Reina, on the weekend? The promise you made last time hasn't been fulfilled yet. Reina heard this excited, I want to go. Not going to the beach. Lin Xian immediately predicted Lingne's thoughts and interrupted her first. Why? Reina pouted, as if she knew. Because the environment near Tokyo is not very good, and I don't like to go to those beaches with many people. If I want to go to a beach with a good environment and few people, it will be too far, and I won't be able to have fun in one day. Lin Xian smiled at Reina, said, this is rejection, have you learned it? Oni-chan will bully me. Reina glanced at Lin Xian and then turned away, no longer looking at him. But within a few seconds, Lene secretly looked at Lin Xian with her peripheral vision, and saw that he was also looking at her, with a smile on his face. Ha ha ha. What is our Lene looking at? Lin Xian laughed when he saw Lene peeking. Humph. Oni-chan, the bad guy, I'm ignoring you. Lene turned around and saw that Lin Xian was still laughing at her. She immediately launched an attack, but unfortunately Lin Xian blocked it with one hand. Ryo Hosokawa is not here today either. Lin Xian looked at the empty seat in front of him. It had been 3 days, and the topic of those people had long since changed to other things, but there was no news about Hosokawa Ryo. Of course, Lin Xian had not contacted her on his own initiative. He was just a little curious why what he expected did not happen. Logically speaking, it shouldn't happen. Matsushita Haru said that Hosokawa Ryo's parents were investigating him, but why was there no news after so many days? Could it be that Yukino Takemi helped him stop it? This is also possible. After all, if someone wants to investigate him, he must go through his gate first, and Matsushita Haru may have misrepresented his meaning. Lin Zion still wanted to meet Hosokawa Ryo's parents. The reason was very simple. He just wanted to remind them of the problems their daughter was facing. After all, he was not always there. It was a pity that a good person was gone, although she was a little strange. But it didn't matter. This was originally a very random thing. After a while, Shiu was immersed in his own world again. Although his eyes were looking at the teacher on the stage, his heart had long gone somewhere. When the bell rang, Lin Zion looked at the time and decided to go eat. "What's wrong with you? You seem a little absent-minded," Yotsuki Hideki asked. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 276. The two were walking side by side. Hideki Yotsuki saw that he seemed to be thinking about something and his attention was not on the road at all. "Reina wants me to take her to play, and I don't know if there is any place nearby that is suitable for a day trip." "Amusement park," Hideki Yotsuki suggested. "No, those places are too boring, not to mention that at Reina's height and age, there are no activities to play." Lin Zion rejected the proposal and asked, "Have you never gone out to play with your sisters?" "How should I put it? It's true." Yotsuki Hideki recalled for a moment, but quickly expelled those scenes, with a helpless expression on his face. "I won't talk about this anymore." Lin Zion was a little curious when he saw him like this, but he didn't say anything and didn't ask. "I'll just ask Lene where she wants to go when we get back." Lin Zion also gave up and continued to struggle with this issue. It didn't matter to him anyway, it didn't matter where he went. "You are so insincere. Her mother and I won't care anyway, so wouldn't it be better to let her make her own choice?" Lin Zion had no reaction to this. The place he wanted to go was not suitable for taking Rina and the two of them, and he didn't want to go to those boring places. Eating is more important now. When the get out of class bell rang, the class lost its lifelessness and became particularly active. For them, the wonderful campus life has just begun, but for Lin Zion, it is the end of the day. Another day. Lin Zion didn't get up until the others were almost gone. There was no rush anyway, so there was no need to squeeze in with those people. Wandering out to the school gate, before he could walk out of the intersection, a car parked in front opened the door and a young man got out of the driver's seat. When Lin Zion saw the visitor, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. "This person shouldn't be here. Zion." The young man came over and opened his arms as if he wanted to hug him, but Lin Zion did not accept this. Instead, he stretched out his hand to stop him and asked, "Why are you not in the country? Why would you come out?" "Haha." The young man smiled awkwardly, turned around and said, "This is nothing. Let's go to your house first and then talk about it." "What are you talking about first? Why do I feel that you are so wretched?" Lin Zion felt that something was wrong. This person was from his father's side and a former colleague. But according to regulations, he cannot go abroad at will. Either he has a mission or he quits. But Lin Zion knew that this guy was his father's diehard loyalist, and he used to keep an eye on him. "He asked you to come over to perform a mission?" "Am I the target?" Lin Zion said as he walked to the car. The two people just stood here for a while and attracted the attention of others. Moreover, both of them spoke Chinese, which attracted even more attention. The two people got on the bus, and then the young man slowly said, "The boss wants you to go back." What happened? Lin Zion did not refuse directly, but asked instead. People who work in that place work as a company, so they all call Lin Zion his father, boss. Even when he used to work, he called him that way. When he heard that his father wanted him to go back, Lin Zion knew something was wrong, because it was impossible for his father to ask him to go back for some trivial matter. The young man pondered for a moment and said slowly, "The heavenly master has come down from the mountain." What? Lin Zion's originally careless attitude suddenly turned serious. He now knew why his father called him back. When the celestial master comes down from the mountain, big trouble may happen if one of them fails. Only those rotten fish and shrimps in the company can get ahead of the celestial master. One person is needed to watch the scene and stabilize the situation. Tell me quickly, what is going on? Lin Zion thought for a long time but could not guess why the old master came down the mountain. It had been decades since the last time he went down the mountain. If it was not a big deal, he would not go down the mountain at all. After all, Lin Zion knew more or less why he stayed on the mountain. Dramatic changes occurred in Longhu Mountain some time ago. No wonder after hearing this, Lin Zion lost the serious feeling and relaxed instead. As long as this matter does not involve ordinary people, you don't care what they do, that's the consensus. Heavenly Master, even if he is really crazy, he will not touch ordinary people. You must know that he is still the spokesperson of Longhu Mountain. Is the sun going to come back or not? Lin Zion also heard the meaning and felt a little unhappy immediately, but he obviously came here with his father's token, and it was useless to get angry with him. You go first, I will go back by myself then. It's so simple, but he definitely can't go back with his old identity. After all, he's still relatively shady, which is a bit interesting. But how did his father know that he had the ability to fight against the Heavenly Master? Logically speaking, he was almost cold when he left. If he hadn't won the battle. While thinking about it, Lin Zion laughed without warning, and he finally knew why. He got out of the car without saying anything to the young man and walked slowly home. Let's go back and see my mother. In the end, I still couldn't fulfill my promise. I'm sorry, I broke my promise. Let's end it like this. No one is watching anyway. I'm sorry for delaying you for so long. Thank you very much Tang Yuji for your support along the way.